you do know that compromise is not just in procurement.
Yes.
There will be people who want results to go in a particular way, and they will bring you bags of money or to bring to your colleagues. How do you, as chair, deal with that? Could you give us an example of where you have stood for integrity as a person and with colleagues or people you're working with? Because what do you do if you as chair are standing for integrity, but you learn that some of your colleagues may not be as committed and therefore are going out of the way? What do you do as chair if there's another chicken gate in your house?
It is something not to be taken lightly, because what you are putting forward is a scenario that is not only expected, but is likely to be in the foremost of the minds of Kenyans. Just by accepting to apply for this job, I am stepping down financially. I will be earning drastically and severely less than I will be earning under the IEBC. Why am I agreeing to taking a drastic step down? Because by God's grace, I have my businesses, and by God's grace, I have my practice. And I thank God, I am doing quite well. And when I looked at what the pay was for the IEBC, I could immediately see that I was going to have to tighten my belt severely, because I'm not allowed to do any other work if I am honored with this position. But remember, I mentioned 2007 to Canon Karanja. I do not know of any other job in this republic of ours. The positive outcome of which is the direct safety of my family than the chair of the IEBC. Not even the president's job has such a direct effect on the security of my family as does the job of the chair of the IEBC. Because the IEBC has the potential for both a safe, peaceful, and secure election, and the continuance or the change of persons in power, and with the twin side of the edge of the blade, it is capable of horrendous violence that can rip our country apart. So on a selfish basis, I decided to apply for this job because I want to protect myself and my family and my people and this great republic. It is not the financial package that has attracted me to this job. And if it were, then I am losing. I am on the losing end. Secondly, Bishop, what price do you place on your own integrity? You are a bishop. I am sure you have faced difficult decisions in your life many times before, and your faith and your need to be a person of integrity has prevailed. I want, because this is a one-term job, I cannot run for another term. I want, God willing, that when I am done with this job, I can meet you in the street and you will fit me out. You will praise me. You will embrace me. You will speak highly of me. I do not wish to live in a country where after my tenure in office, all you can say when you see me is thief. In this age of the FM radio and the mobile phone, almost anybody on the street can call in and tell everybody what a thief you are and abuse you all sorts of manner of. So I don't know about how much money will be offered, but I know that my integrity is valuable to me, and God willing, I pray for the strength not to partake in any of those activities.
Thank you, Bishop Oginde, and thank you, Mr. Taib. May I request Canon Kanaranja to ask one question in the same topic that we are talking about? Canon Karanja, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Taib, you've asked for a job that is virtually a poison chalice.
Yes, sir.
Virtually almost anything you do is likely to please some people very much and offend others very much in the very highly polarized country that we are in. And Kenyans are looking for a leadership that can be creative. I would like to ask you, is there any evidence in your life that you've been able to adopt a strategy on a matter that may be unpopular conventionally and had the strength to push it through and be vindicated later that you were wise in that choice without really hoping to please people but to accomplish an objective?
It's a difficult question, Canon, because one normally doesn't go into life gauging their levels of adversity that they are presented with. But I remember one of the most difficult decisions I had to make was when I was mayor of Mombasa, and there was the referendum for the constitution. The first draft was prepared by my side of the party in power, and I disagreed completely with the contents of that constitution. And I had a stark choice: stick with my party and keep my job as mayor of Mombasa, or stick with my principles and support the no vote to the constitution and lose my job as mayor of Mombasa. It was not an easy decision, yes, but it was clear as night and day to me, because it was not an issue of who I was to please. It was an issue of whether my conscience accepted the draft constitution as it was. My conscience did not. I therefore decamped, went to ODM, and voted and campaigned for the no vote, and eventually lost my job as mayor of Mombasa. I was not sad at all. I did what I thought was right. Remember, Canon, it doesn't matter what is right or wrong, it's what we think is right and what we think is wrong. Because obviously, part of Kenya thought the constitutional amendments were right, and part of Kenya thought that they were wrong. Always you must remember that your views are not everybody's views. But so long as you are at peace with yourself for the decisions you make, I will take the consequences. And I took the consequences. I lost the mayoral position. Not a small position to lose, but I lost it. And I knew I would lose it. And I was happy with
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm not through yet. I'll ask Professor Elbsaid to ask one more question on that particular topic. Professor.
Mr. Taib, how will the new commission be different from the outgoing one? And what difference will they make?
The new commission not only should but must be different in this sense. First and foremost, we must open our arms and we must open up our information to all our stakeholders. We must consult highly with them. We must ensure that we win their support. If not their support, at least their understanding, and if not their understanding, at least their realization that we are a free, fair arbiter, referee. That is number one. Number two, we must clean our house. We must clean our house, and that comes again with the audit. Not an audit by word, but an audit by deed. Not by people who do not know what an audit is, but by people who are competent in conducting audits and then implementing these audits. But, Professor, it is critical to accept that the running of elections is a twin function of the technical side and of the human side. Managing elections is more about managing the tempers, the emotions, the perceptions that are out there in the political field, that are being propagated by political parties, that is being disseminated by the politicians, or that is not being disseminated by the politicians. And if we do not get our game right at that level, then we are doomed. But we will not. We will provide that leadership. We will make sure that we are hand in glove with all our stakeholders, and integrity must be first and foremost. If the political players do not perceive us, not even whether we are or not, but whether if they perceive us as not free and fair, then we have lost the game. We must not lose it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. And just one very short question from Dr. Mohan Lumba on the same topic.
Just as a follow-up to Professor's question, I would like to ask you, if you were the chair, if you are elected, nominated to be the next chair of IEBC, what will be your relationship with the outgoing commissioners?
Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Mohan. It's something I have thought about, actually, for quite some time. And I asked myself, what should it be and what is proper, what is politically correct? I decided to avoid what is politically correct and decided to go for what is pragmatic. If you look also at the parliamentary report by the select committee, they made no findings as to the character or the actions of the outgoing commissioners. So to me, I should not hesitate to at least talk to them to enable a smooth passing of the baton, so to speak. There are people who have been in that office. They have probably worked hard in that office. Without judging them, I will want to find out if there was anything that is useful that they would like the incoming commission to be aware of. To ignore them will be a mistake.
Just second question regarding the commission. As a chairman, suppose you're the chairman of the IEBC, what will be your take, or could you overrule decisions made by other commissioners?
The Act is very clear, sir. It is very clear that the Commission acts collectively. The Chair provides the leadership. There are certain things, the Chair is a spokesperson. The Chair takes the lead in so many areas. But even if the law did not provide for it, it will be a mistake for the Chair to act alone. You lose the Commission, you have started unraveling everything else. You will lose the commissioners, you will lose the secretariat, you will lose the political players, you will lose the stakeholders, and you are left with nothing.
Thank you.
The next questions, I think they have been answered. Justice Mbaluto was going to ask you a few questions. You still want to ask? I think they have been answered, yeah. You have in your answering the other questions also touched on what he was going to talk to you about.
Most of them.
So there's one last question which I'm going to still ask Dr. Lumba to ask you on a different topic. Yeah.
What are the key security challenges facing Kenya, and what are, in your opinion, solutions to such challenges?
The biggest security challenge, in my humble opinion, is the security of our borders. They are porous, they have been a challenge, but I believe also the government is actively addressing and trying to redress that situation. Most obvious of which is the threat that is posed by Al-Shabaab, which in the conduct of elections cannot be overemphasized and cannot be underplayed by whatever nature. That is number one. Number two is that over the years, our great republic has by default allowed the growth or the taking root of informal organizations that have discovered that they are able to accumulate great wealth by organizing and replacing and filling the vacuum that has been there in so many spheres of our lives. These organized gangs, if I may say, are there in almost every sphere of our life. I wouldn't like to go into the details because I wouldn't like to invite controversy. But now they have also realized that in addition to their organization bringing them wealth, they can actually organize in addition to wealth to bring themselves political office. And they have no hesitation in using their expertise on application of violence, illegitimate violence, to achieve their ends. In my humble opinion, these organized gangs, these terror groups are also a threat that cannot be overlooked in terms not only of our country, but directly in respect to the organizing and holding of free, fair and transparent elections. And the third sphere is the tendency of politicians in organizing their own so-called youth wings to ensure that their will prevails. And this is less of a threat because it is on local, very local level, and is supposed to be for a period of the time that is limited to the election campaigns, but nevertheless it is a threat.
What about corruption and security?
In fact, none of those others could have taken place if corruption was not their precursor. Corruption allows all these three to take place. And yes, I stand corrected, sir. Corruption is our number one security threat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lumba. And once again, thank you, Mr. Taib.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah, we have come to the more or less formal question or conversation with my colleague. Oh, sorry, there's one more question, sorry. Madam Ogla, did you have a question on general knowledge? One question, please.
Tell us something about the implementation of devolution.
About?
The implementation of devolution.
In general. Yes. I think we had the commission for the implementation of devolution. And we have seen that the implementation of devolution has presented so many challenges, most of which were taken to court. I had also the honor of sitting in the Makueni Commission, which was supposed to return a ruling on whether that commission should be dissolved or not. Luckily, the process did not reach the level of being recommended to the Senate. Certainly, devolution, in my opinion, is something of great significance and has come into being because the people of Kenya wanted it, and we can see the benefits of devolution. But the picture of devolution has been contaminated by the legal wrangling that has been going on in terms of who has what power over what function, which is normal because I think even the framers of the Constitution said the period they were giving it is 10 years to be able to come up with a sound document. But by and large, I, in my humble opinion, believe that devolution and the process of devolving functions of government has taken place at an acceptable rate, to an acceptable level. It is something that is overwhelmingly supported by Kenyans. It is something that needs to be strengthened further. And it has presented, more specifically to the IEBC, a great challenge because of the number of offices now that have to be, whose elections have to be conducted. But other than that general view, I will be more than happy to answer any specific query. Thank you.
Olga? Sorry, there was that question which Ogla had, and I've answered it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ogla, and thank you, Mr. Taib. I wish to now address you and address everybody else on a matter that is important for us as a panel. When we were nominated to these positions we are in, as you rightly know, we didn't apply for them, but we accepted to do the work for this country.
Yes.
And it's not an easy job, however, we are committed to it. We promise that we'll be completely transparent. We promise that we'll be completely transparent in what we do. And in that, we follow the law to the letter, like you yourself have said it so many times here.
Yes.
And the law demands that when we have advertised the positions, we publish the full list. Remember, we published this, including the second advertisement, we published all that. And then after shortlisting, there's a requirement that as a panel, we also publish that list, giving all possible qualifications of all the candidates that we have shortlisted, and at the same time invite the general public and also write to the agencies within the government and elsewhere to give us views on the candidates that we have shortlisted. This is an effort for us, and which is very good, to help us determine the suitability of all the candidates that we have shortlisted. And what, in your case, we have received a memorandum from one member of the public. It's a very short one. And as this panel determined in their procedures that we shall not ambush any candidate at the time of interview.
Correct.
It has been brought to your attention before you walked into this room.
Correct.
Is that true?
That is true, my lady.
Yes. Now, as chair of my colleagues talk to you, and I want to put the question to you that this matter which has been brought to your attention,
yes,
which touches on you as a person, we would like to know whether you would like this matter to be discussed in the public with the media present and all the members of the general public present, or would like us to recess to go to another, in a camera to have this matter discussed. And I would like you to give me the direction. Would you like us to discuss this matter in public or in camera?
My lady, I would very much want this matter to be discussed in public.
So
the process of credibility starts here and now.
Thank you. May I therefore let my colleagues, members of the panel, the media, and the general public to know that the matter before us has been brought to Mr. Taib before he came into this interview room, and he has now requested that this matter be discussed in full view of the general public and the media. And I will therefore request my colleague, Dr. Bishop David Oginde, the Bishop, to summarize what it is, and then I would ask you kindly to respond. It's a very short matter, and as we said, we are trying to manage time. I would like you to respond to it very quickly,
yes, and
then we move forward. Okay. So I now request Bishop Oginde to go.
Thank you, Chair. The matter before us is brought by one Mohammed Baishe. I hope I pronounced that name correctly.
Yes.
And his concern is that back in 1991, you represented him as a lawyer in a matter that was in a court in Mombasa, a case that eventually won and was awarded some 229,730 shillings. His concern is that after the end of that case, you abandoned him and did not follow up the payment of that money, and therefore he did not benefit from the ruling that was given by the court. And he wonders, therefore, if you could do that to him, whether you could provide leadership in such a big organization.
Chair Lady, the story of Mr. Mohammed Baishe is a story that will bring sadness to anybody's heart. In on or about 1990, he and his wife were assaulted by administration police off the islands of Lamu. And he was beaten very severely. He was hurt. He was incarcerated together with his wife. And he lost all his property in the rampage that followed. At that time, if I will put it in context, nobody was willing to take any case against the government. It was 1990, after all. But we took his matter. We sued the Ministry of the Interior, at that time known as the Administration and Internal Security Ministry, and won his case after huge delays. Again, the judiciary we have now is a huge improvement on the judiciary we had then. So after almost 10 years, we finally finished the case and won the case, and he had about that figure of 229,000, but which, by the way, now is almost 1 million shillings that is supposed to be due to him, not 229. It is almost 1 million shillings that is supposed to be due to him. We obtained the warrants. We tried to execute the warrants against, guess who? The PS Internal Security, who is in charge of the police, and were unable to do so. We tried all manner of procedures to be able to execute these warrants, but are unable to do so because the person we wanted to execute them against was the person in charge of the arm of the executive that controls legitimate use of violence. So we went back to the drawing board and decided to file judicial review cases. By the way, there are two cases, not one. There's a case in respect of him. There's a case in respect of his wife also, both of which in which we have judgment. So we filed judicial review proceedings seeking for orders of mandamus against the PS, Ministry of the Interior now. We obtained those orders successfully, and they were ordered to make the payments. We wrote not less than 20 pieces of correspondence to the Attorney General to use his good offices to ensure the coming to fruition of that judgment, so that Mr. Baishe and his wife may enjoy the compensation that they so rightly and so richly deserve. Again, it came to naught. There were no responses, and we were unable to execute that judgment. Now, we went to the third limb, and we filed an application for committal of the PS Internal Security for contempt of the court's orders to pay Mr. Baishe and his wife, which perhaps again may answer Canon Karanja's question about what risks I am willing to take. I don't mind to take on the PS Internal Security, so long as I'm doing it, again, within the law. That application for the jailing of the PS Internal Security is coming up for hearing in February. And we have been informing Mr. Baishe in correspondence. But now that he has complained, I am assuming that his physical location in the islands of Lamu has something to do with his inability to receive the correspondence. I know for certain I have asked him for his emails, but he doesn't have an email, he doesn't have a computer, and he doesn't operate such. But I meet him in Mombasa, and I explain to him the position. And that is the current status of the matter. We have done 3 separate proceedings over the years. The last stage, that is committal of the PS Internal Security for contempt of the court order to pay Mr. Baishe the over 1 million shillings he's entitled to, is coming up in February of 2017. And my heart goes out for Mr. Baishe. My heart really goes out to him, and I hope we're able to successfully conclude this matter.
Mr. Taib, I want to thank you for your response. We've taken note of what you have told us. Yes, I'm happy that you say you will reach out to Mr. Baishe,
yes,
and that will be very good for him to get to know what actions you have taken or you are taking. In the meantime, I would like to tell you that that's the only memoranda we got from about you. We received all the other positive things from the other agencies, and Therefore, this brings the end of this conversation. This brings to an end the conversation that we have been having with you this morning.
Most obliged.
Normally, still I'll ask you to take some water. It helps me also to take mine. Yeah? Mr. Taib, it has been a pleasure for us as a panel to talk to you, and we want to thank you for sharing your views and your experiences in various places of leadership also, and for your commitment to your integrity in the way you have. As you know, we are talking to about 10 people about this position. Therefore, I would like to inform you that now time has come for you to know that we don't know the outcome of the other 9 people we are going to talk to. But in the event that you are not the one picked, on behalf of the panel, I would like you to keep that spirit you have of serving this nation, of serving Kenyans, and being concerned on the bigger picture of the Kenyan nation, and saying this is where the way. So not all of us can be chairs of IEBC. So in whatever position you are, you continue to do that. Before you leave, I'll ask you, do you have any question that you want to ask this panel, or you want to ask me any question of any kind, or you would like to make a comment to us as a panel?
I have no questions, my lady, but I would like to say something with your permission and with your...
Yeah, you are very welcome. You are very welcome.
First of all is to thank you so much for your public spirit. I know you have all left your work, you have all left your obligations, you have so many of them, but this is what governing is about. You sacrifice. I want you to know one thing. If God permits, He finds it in favor to grant me this position, I will do it conscientiously, to the best of my ability, so that I may go down, hopefully, on the record, to have rendered my country a service, both for the country's sake and for my own family's sake. And if I am not successful, I will also sigh a sigh of relief, because it is not an obligation that I will ask anyone to take lightly. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Mr. Taib, thank you very much. And we wish you all the best in whatever endeavors you are involved in. And may you be escorted out by the gentleman next to you. May I also request that your documentation, which we have looked through, ensure that you have everything before you leave this building. Thank you and all the best. Yeah, thank you. You are very welcome. Yeah, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we still want to continue with the next candidate. However, I will ask you for a short recess of 10 minutes between now and